Hello everyone, welcome back to another video here on Play on GAA. My name is Seamus Brady and this video is going to be a preview of the two All-Ireland hurling semi-finals of 2022. I cannot wait for these. They're going to be two epic games. In the first one you got Clare versus Kilkenny, and then in the other one you got Limerick versus Galway. So really, let's jump right in. We're going to start with Clare versus Kilkenny, but before we do, please like, subscribe, share and comment. It really helps us out. And yeah, let's go. So I was on GA Statsman's podcast there. There's a real in-depth discussion there with a man who knows his stuff. That's another good video to check out, so make sure you do. Clare versus Kilkenny is the first game I'm going to talk about here. So, of course, Kilkenny Leinster champions 2022. They came back. They beat Galway. They evened the score. Coming in against the Clare side that aren't provincial champions, but were a hair's breadth away. I mean, played one of the best games of hurling that there has ever been. In that Munster final against Limerick, Tony Kelly sideline, of course, to send it to extra time. They just ran out of steam a little bit in that extra time period. Limerick pulled away and won the game. But they bounced back. In the first half against Wexford, it was very clear to see the Clare were a little bit off the pace. But then in the second half, they put together a 10-minute spell that was Limerick-esque against Tipperary in last year's Munster final. They put together a period of play where they were crazy and they were just winning every single ball and they were putting everything over the bar. I think they outscored Wexford like 1-9 or 1-8 to 1 point or something in that period. It was remarkable how the game just turned around, because Wexford at that time, like after Leachin's second goal, they looked like potentially they might be about to exit the championship, and they just said no. They turned it around. And I genuinely think that's a good thing for the championship. Wexford have been a breath of fresh air, don't get me wrong, since Davy Fitz came in and that whole revolution, and Dara Egan has carried it on. But I do think Clare are the only team actually capable of beating Limerick. So if they had got knocked out of the championship, I do think it would have been a bad thing for the championship. I think Wexford just don't have it in them to beat Limerick. But coming into this game against Kilkenny, Clare will have to start better than they did in the game against Wexford. They're going to have a better first half. They're going to have to start like they did against Tipperary, where they just hit them for goals real quick. Peter Duggan and the forward line, he's a key player. It'll be interesting though, because Hugh Lawler is going to pick him up. No, make no mistake about that. Hugh Lawler is going to go on to Peter Duggan. It's a perfect match. Myself and Matt picked that Mikey Butler would go on to Tony Kelly. That's a key matchup as well. Be interesting to see who Paddy Deegan picks up, because will he go on Shane O'Donnell? Like, it's a tough one. I think Michael Carey will go on Shane O'Donnell because the pace, and then I think Paddy Deegan will go on either a Cathal Malone or David Reedy, depending on who is out at wing forward there. The midfield battle as well, who picks up David Fitzgerald, that's a key one, because he's been slinging the points over for Clare throughout all the Munster Championship, and Clare finished top of the Munster Championship group, so you can't ignore that. Clare have been magnificent in the championship up until this point, and even though they lost against Limerick, they were pretty much perfect. Like, I genuinely struggle to think who could have played better, who could have, done better. It's impossible. They were so good. So coming into this game against Kilkenny, the question is, I think, can Clare keep the momentum? Because I genuinely believe, right, if they play to 100%, if Clare play to 100%, if Kilkenny play to 100%, I think Clare win. I think Clare have the better players. I think Kilkenny are very solid, but I don't think they have the match winners now that Clare have in Tony Kelly, in Shane O'Donnell. So I am going with Clare to win, but that is if Clare are 100%, because Kilkenny are very consistent at bringing it every time. And they caught Limerick on the hop in 2019. They could definitely catch Clare on the hop this year. Brian Cody's going to have them fired up. I don't think he's going to have them fired up to the same level that he had them fired up for the Leinster final, which could be a disadvantage, but they're going to come correct. Kilkenny always come ready to put in a performance. And look, they have won the Leinster Championship again this year, 3 Leinsters in a row. So they're coming into this game with a lot of confidence. They haven't won the All-Ireland since 2015. So Brian Cody will be desperate to close that gap. Because like since then, it's been Tip, it's been Galway, Limerick, Tip, and Limerick again. So he's going to want to put an end to that spell where Kilkenny haven't won, because now the links to that All-Ireland team are actually starting to dwindle. If you look at it, I mean, Killian Buckley, Owen Murphy, TJ Reid, Walter Walsh, and not a lot else, really. Not a lot of lads there on that team anymore. Pádraig Walsh, actually, but not a lot of lads there have won an All-Ireland. And that's a big concern for Kilkenny, because the experience of being there and getting over the line is massive. And that's why TJ Reid and players like that are still so important to this team, because they know what it takes and they have been there, done it, and got the t-shirt. This game against Clare, it's a massive one for Kilkenny, because to get back to the final for the first time since 2019, they've lost back-to-back semi-finals. And the game for against Cork was one that they definitely in particular would have looked back on and thought that they left that one behind them, because Cork, they had Cork rattled at the end when they took the game to extra time, and then Cork just blitzed them in extra time, just put them away. So they would be disappointed with the way that one ended. But yeah, I think if Kilkenny, bottom prediction, if Kilkenny come correct and Clare don't, if Clare start like they did against Wexford, I think Kilkenny beat them. If Clare turn up, I think Clare wins. So I'm going to go with Clare by about 2 or 3 points in this game. I think Kilkenny will definitely make them work for it, but Clare for me. Which brings us on to the other semi-final, Limerick against Galway. So this is a replay of the All-Ireland semi-final of 2020. And at that time, myself and Luke, and last year, we were saying that if anyone could beat Limerick, it was Galway. We were saying that last year, that Galway would have next up to beat Limerick. And they had a stinker of a year in 2021. They were awful. They got knocked out by Dublin in the Leinster Championship, and then they got knocked out before the All-Ireland semi-finals as well. So they just had a bad year. They just didn't turn up, and Limerick put in a masterpiece of a season. And Galway since then they're just a bit like, they're unpredictable. Like, it's really hard to know where exactly Galway are at, because they beat Kilkenny, then they lose to Kilkenny in the Leinster final. They draw with Wexford. They beat Dublin, who beat Wexford. Then they go away to Cork. Well, away pretty much. Semple Stadium is way closer to Cork. They go down there and beat Cork. Bearing in mind, Cork beat Kilkenny in that All-Ireland semi-final last year. They're a very hard one to predict. And coming into this game against Limerick, they're going to have to nail it. And the thing is that I am going Limerick to win this game, because the game against Clare, as I said, I don't think anything was there for Clare to do better. Clare were amazing. From 1 to 15, they all had probably the games of their lives. The only thing that might make Clare better is a returning Aaron Shanahan, who can offer a goal threat. Aidan McCarthy as well as a superb player. They're both coming back in. Potentially they could level Clare up. But on the day, every single Clare player poured his heart and soul onto that field, and they still didn't win. And this was a Limerick side that didn't have Cian Lynch, didn't have Peter Casey, and these lads are back. Cian Lynch is back. The hurler of the year is back. Peter Casey's back. One of the best forwards last year is back. So I just don't see how Galway win this game. I really don't. I think they'd have to hit Limerick early for goals, and they'd have to get Conor Whelan one-on-one and just hope that he shoots the lights out. Conor Cooney has to nail every free. Joseph Cooney in midfield has to really go toe-to-toe with Will O'Donoghue and beat him, because Cooney's been magnificent all season, but Will O'Donoghue, in my opinion, is Limerick's Roy Keane from Man United. He's the general. He's the captain on the field. And yeah, he just dominates the midfield battles all the time. And really, they need someone to step up to him. And Joseph Cooney could be the man, because Galway are massive. Galway are physically huge. So they definitely can stand up to Limerick physically. It's going to be massive to see who picks up Gerard Hegarty. Will they leave it as, Fintan Burke left half back, or will they put Mannion on him, or will they put Gerard McInerney on him? And then who takes Tom Morrissey? Who picks up Cian Lynch if he comes on? It's just, there's so many questions that Galway have to answer. Who's going to mark Aaron Gallant? Because he's just been incredible. Daithí Burke would be my pick. Then who picks up Seamus Flanagan? It's just, there's questions to be asked everywhere. Limerick have match winners in every line in the team. I think Galway have to get everything right to have a chance in this game, because Clare got everything right and they still didn't win. And yeah, so for me, it's the same for Galway. They need to get everything right, and they need a lot of luck. It would be one of the biggest, it would be the best achievements I've seen over the last 5 years. I really think Limerick are that good. They're amazing. That All-Ireland final performance last year was perfect. It was just incredible. So this game, massive for Galway, but I think Limerick are going to win. So I'm going for a Clare and Limerick All-Ireland final. Yeah, which would be very interesting. Obviously, Shanahan and Aidan McCarthy back in for Clare, Keane Lynch and Peter Casey back in for Limerick. It would be an amazing game. But Kilkenny and Galway could spoil the party. We will see. That's my predictions, guys. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Let me know who you think is going to win each game and why. And yeah, get involved in the discussion. That's the video here, guys, on Play on GAA. Until the next one, take care.